We'd like to welcome you to Tuesdays with Tom's webinar series on equine fundraising and grant writing support. Tom Camacho is a contract grant writer and a fundraiser. Prior to these roles, he was a nonprofit management and strategic planning consultant and a curriculum coordinator with a background in arts-based and social service organization. His specialties lie in with grassroots, small and mid-sized nonprofit organizations in all areas of organizational development, fiscal evaluation, strategic planning, board development, fundraising, and curriculum development, and aligning to regional educational learning standards. He was contracted with over 40 nonprofits, art and social service organizations in both Chicago and nationally. He aided 11 organizations with acquisitions of their nonprofit status. Since he began contract work in 2006, Tom has aided over 40 organizations with securing over $4 million in corporate foundation, local municipality, and national grant support, and has helped 11 attain their 501c3 status. He also has an ongoing dialogue and relationship with multiple previous funders. Tom holds a Master's of Arts in Communication, Media, and Theater from Northeastern Illinois University and a Bachelor of Arts degree in Arts and Media Management from the Columbia College of Chicago. So we'd like to welcome you to our first ever Tuesdays with Tom webinar, May 12th, Introduction to Grants and the Benefits of Hiring a Professional. Well, giddy up, Tom, and let's hear what you have to say.
Thanks a million, Lisa. And, I really want to thank you for kicking this off. This is something I've wanted to do for a very, very long time. There was just things that just came up and I wasn't able to, but it was through Lisa's film festival in Albuquerque where I met my Mustang, Sawyer. I was actually just working the door, but walked back and took a look, and he came up to me and nuzzled me, and my life completely changed. He was the only one that was not up for adoption, so I adopted him, and within an hour and a half, the community came together, and I had a trailer. I had a stall, which is unheard of in Albuquerque. You cannot find them, and I had a trainer. So in those conversations with those people in that community, I saw that everyone needed help, support with their fundraising and their grants. And this was such a welcoming difference to some of the organizations I've worked for in the past where everything was satellite. And I saw this as an opportunity to bring together the entire community and create something where everyone helps each other, and we get funded because there's a lot of issues that we need to deal with. So that's kind of how this thing got started. These webinars are going to be a conversation. So we welcome questions and we welcome suggestions about topics that you may want or need, or something that is going on with the organization that I can help you with. This webinar today is just going to be about grant basics. It's going to be a kind of a rudimentary conversation. Maybe a speaking piece would be good for me, but it's going to be a rudimentary conversation about grants. I know it's going to be, some people are going to be advanced beyond this, and it's always good to review anyway. So it's going to include grant basics, a brief interview of how to find and apply for programming, myths about grants, and pros and cons of hiring a professional grant writer. So for me, as Lisa had said, I have 25 years of grant writing experience. I started a theater company back in 2000 called the Serendipity Youth Theater because kids were running drugs at 13 years old, and I wanted to get them off the street because I was an actor and I had that skill, and I knew nothing about grant writing whatsoever. So I failed really well. And that's why I went to college to learn how to do it. And I actually got to a point in Chicago where I was at 89% of my proposals being funded. So it can be done. So what is a grant? Grant basics. A grant is funding that's provided for a specific purpose, like community projects. They're not loans. You don't have to pay them back. And the money is all yours. So let's talk a little bit about the types of grants. There are foundation grants, which are generally started by a family. Usually a family member passes away and they bequeath their money to, oh, sorry, I got a call. Okay, sorry about that. They bequeath their money to a cause that they were committed to in their life. The second type is our corporate grants, and those are grants coming from different corporations, and they are kind of focused on what that corporation wants to achieve. Usually, there's some sort of a marketing strategy for them because they want to really kind of highlight their care for the community. And then there's government grants and the state grants and federal and then municipal grants that come from, they can come from the Senate, they can come from different areas, and sometimes community councils and stuff like that just give those out. So
Maven.
types of grants, varieties, there's programs, there's project grants. Those are specific, there's specific goals, specific projects. Capital grants are for like buildings and equipment and land acquisition and purchase and things like that. Then there's what you really want is the general operating support that is not restricted. It's completely unrestricted, so you can take that money and spend it any way that you want. Some of the grants that I've written are some of the big ones for the government were the National Science Foundation, National Endowment for the Arts. I've worked with small and large foundations, both. I've done arts-based, science-based research, youth projects, special needs, and animal support. And the animal support piece is what I really want to do. I want to focus on just that, because I think that gives me a better opportunity to kind of just bring it in, be in that conversation with a bunch of organizations, and
Amazing.
be able to create something within these communities. So this is all about like communication and collaboration. For grants, there's generally an application process. The proposals are submitted for evaluation and for funding support. But grants sometimes can be as simple as just an email or just having a phone call. I was working with an armory in Chicago, and we were putting together a Nutcracker performance with 100 kids in this room. There was absolutely no air conditioning in the middle of August, and it was unbearable. So it was the Boys and Girls Club that was running that program. And I asked them, is there any way we can get just an air conditioner in here? They said no. So I knew, because I was at the Fine Arts Center downtown, taking classes and then working with one of the organizations there, that they were tearing down the Blackstone Hotel to refurbish it. So I asked them, and they said they had a chiller in their basement, a huge chiller that would absolutely cool the entire armory. You would be freezing in there because this was like a 27-story hotel. So they said we could have. I made a call to the National Guard and actually got a helicopter that would pick up that chiller, take it from the Blackstone Hotel downtown, and bring it to the armory. Unfortunately, the Boys and Girls Club said no, so we didn't get it. But I mean, that's the kind of things that can happen, and that's just a conversation, and that's why I'm saying it's all about communication. Grant proposals have multiple steps, so there's planning, there's research, there's the writing, and then there's the follow-up and the reporting. During your programming, you really want to keep your numbers, your metrics, so that you're able to report well, because that if you give these funders a good report, which I was always very stringent about that, I was very careful with it, you're going to get repeat funding from them and you're going to get more money. So really kind of keeping the records, I made sure, because I write curriculum too, that there's rosters for every program and that there's things like attendance, gender numbers, number of boys, number of girls, like, well, that's gender, ages and all that stuff. So, and who was in the program and then who came every day and things like that. So we could report back to the funder. And then again, we got repeat funding all the time. So the next thing is kind of like finding the grants. Where do you look? There are search engines like Instrumental, grants.gov, which is for the government grants, which it's a little bit more entailed to do those. You have to really kind of keep that up. It's a little bit tough. And like I said, anytime through here, you guys have questions, I can help you with that. I have gone through that site so many times, I can see it in my sleep. So there's Candid. Another one you want to look at is organizations that are like yours. You can go through and look at their sponsorship pages and their funder pages. And look at who funded them in the past. And you look at who funded them in the past, and then you can apply to those organizations or give them a call. Really good ways to call the program officers and just kind of make your plea about your program and what you're doing. So with the plan, you want to define your project, your goals and your budget, and then write a program covering the problem, the objectives, and your evaluation methods. I know this is a lot of information if you're new to this. And like I said, call anytime, email anytime, and I can definitely clarify things for you if it's not making sense to you. And then managing the grant, you're going to follow the rules because they're going to give you, once you get the grant, they're going to give you a grant agreement, and we're going to follow those objectives and everything that's on there. What I can suggest is there is a common grant application. And in that common grant application, it has nothing to do with any single foundation or any funder. You can go in and it kind of has all the pieces. So you pick your program and you go in and you just add the text, your narrative text in each section. Then you have that ready to go when you approach a funder. So what are some of the myths and realities about grants? Grants are fast money. It's false. It takes months after submitting a proposal to receive funding. And if it's a government grant, it can be up to a year before you get that money. So you really want to plan. You want to have like a 12-month forecast for what you're going to apply for. And don't do too many, just a couple, and figure out how you're going to schedule it by their deadlines usually, and then by what you can do. So just kind of piece that together. The second myth, grants usually cover general expenses. It's false. Remember, I talked about the general operating grants. They're a little bit more few and far between lately because you don't report on the metrics. You don't report on the outcomes. You just report on the organization. So especially the corporate funders don't get those numbers that they can use in their marketing, and they don't get all the pictures and all that stuff that goes with that. So yeah, most grants do specific projects, and they don't work on day-to-day operations for an organization. The next one is great writing matters more than a strong project. That is absolutely false. Funders care more about a well-designed project than fancy wording. So what you want to do, there's a thing, it's called chasing funding, which is something you never, ever want to do. It's like maybe a board member comes up to you and says, okay, wow, I found this grant. It's really great. It might work for this program. So what happens is you write about it as trying to fit your program into their guidelines. A reviewer for a grant application will absolutely see right through that. It just shows up in the narrative. So what you want to do is you want to create your funding, really streamline, your project. So streamline your project first, and then fit those pieces into proposals that look like they will fit what you've done. And then change the wording a little bit to make it kind of their words. But that's the way you get funded. The other way is just it's kind of gross. And funders look at it that way. It's like, and they'll toss the application. Another one is it's okay to submit at the last second. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. With government grants, grants.gov crashes all the time. And you've got an 11:59 deadline PM, and everybody will submit at 11:50, and it'll crash the website, and you won't be able to submit your proposal. I was with an organization that waited to the last minute for everything, and their funding was at 12%. And remember before I said, when I was writing proposals on my own, I was at 89% on my proposals. So no, don't put it off. The final one is missing a deadline means you lost your chance forever. And that is also false. Grantors are very forgiving. That's why I always have really great conversations with program officers. And I've actually had grants that it was that same organization. They were so late that we missed the deadline. And I pleaded with the program officer, and we were able to submit and actually get funded. So yeah, you can miss deadlines, you can make mistakes. It's okay. Now, rationale for hiring a professional grant writer. The pros: grant writing's an art, and a good grant writer can write persuasive narratives that resonate with donors. So they know how to do that, and they know how to have the conversations, especially when you're new. Like when you're a new organization, you're not going to have that piece. Maybe you will, but I didn't when I started. And so I reached out to my constituents and people that knew what they were doing to help me with that. And I had people help with narratives and things like that. But they can present your plea creatively and clearly and effectively. It takes time to understand the funder's guidelines. So a professional grant writer will know what those are and know how to pick them out of what's called the RFP, the request for funding proposal. So he or she will know how to do that. So it's also saves time and allows you and your staff to focus on your programming and your operations instead of how to figure out how to, submit a proposal, because it's time consuming. It takes a lot. It can also identify new funding opportunities that you might not have found, because like for me, I have huge resources. I put things in spreadsheets. I have spreadsheets. I don't know where they are anymore. There's so many. Yeah. So I do that research every day. I'm always watching. Like I'll pick things out of PBS. I'll watch a documentary and pull funders out of that. And yeah, there's places to look. There's places that you can look to, like I said before. But a grant writer would know a little bit more of what it would be. And once you start watching them work, you learn it, and then you can do it on your own. This is about teaching to fish, really. We want people to be able to go off on their own and just do it. But it does take time, and it takes working with a professional too. Sometimes you're just naturally good at it, and that's cool too. The other thing is it gives you an outside, unbiased outlook at your mission and your vision and your programming. So grant writers know what's going to work kind of and what's not in the program. if you're going off on too many tangents in your program, yeah, if it's multi-directional, a funder is going to read that and go, what are these people doing? Rather than kind of focusing in, just kind of laser focusing in on one piece of that program, what you want to make happen, and how you're going to assess that and measure it. And that's another thing that a grant writer can do. Cons. There are a lot of scammers in grants. So just be super careful that they just want to. I've heard of $10,000 an organization's put in, and the guy absolutely did nothing, absolutely nothing for them. Didn't even write a proposal. And then some will just take your money, and then you're going to get a grant that has nothing to do with your programming or your mission or your vision or anything. It's just a bunch of boilerplate. If you don't know what boilerplate is, just pre-written text that just they cut and paste in. So you got to watch that. And there are a lot of grant writers that have unrealistic goals and charge premium pricing while doing that with the boilerplate language that doesn't include your mission. So that's kind of the pros and cons of it. And the things to do about it, to make sure that you don't have that scam, is to get a contract, including their resume and their work history and things that you can reference. Request work samples from them, and then you take those work samples, those narratives, and you compare them to the organization's mission and programming that they wrote for. Does it make sense what they wrote and what their mission and what the mission and vision of the grantee was? Ask for a pricing structure before signing, and ask about any add-ons like rush charges and other upcharges. And the biggest thing is get references. Make sure you talk to people that have worked with this grant writer before and they've been successful, or things you have turned around. They directed them in the right way, at least. Yeah, make sure you have references. Kind of in conclusion, just for your organizationally, be able to communicate what your mission is and what your programmings are, how they function, and what you look to accomplish in those programs. Really important is to create good communication between your departments and between the departments and the people that are writing the proposals. So that whoever's writing the proposal has a base understanding of what the heck is going on in the organization. I worked with a few that they would not share. I don't know why. And I was Stephen King writing fiction. So there's nowhere to go with that. Again, I'm going to reiterate, keep great records for your funder reports. Communication with program officers is key. Do it often. And really important thing is to provide pictures and testimonials when those program officers don't expect it. You're going to surprise them. So give them more than they're asking for. I always do that. And then we build a relationship and they get to see really great pictures of kids on horses or, whatever it is. And it's another thing, especially for the corporate, they can share the corporate funders. So that's kind of all I have for right now. I'd like to open it up for question and answer if there's anybody that has any.
Well, we've lost our people. But what we'll do is I want to say thank you so much, Tom. That was really a great presentation. You covered a lot in that. And I think when we post this up on the YouTube channel, we'll add all of your introduction notes so that people can be able to access what you talked about. And we want to remind people that next week, the May 19th, types of grants and other supportive revenue will be your next Tuesdays with Tom webinar. And they can go to your website, they can go to your social media and find out more about your Tuesdays with Tom program. And then we'll have these available on your Facebook as well as your website for people to watch your grant series. So thank you so very much for doing this. This was a really nice presentation. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, so much for helping me create this. And I'm so excited to go forward and share. I'm very excited. You're the best.